welcome to Ask a PT. We are back. Did anybody even notice we were gone last week? I'm kind of wondering.
I did.
You did? Yeah. This guy kind of bailed on us. He wanted to go to the mountains and, be alone. DJ, yeah. Tell us, Doug, where'd you go so we know where to find you next time?
Up in the mountains in Colorado, just wherever there's not a cell phone or Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. That's where I go.
I've already teased him about his beautiful sunburn, but people, y'all are welcome to message him on Facebook and tell him how healthy and happy he looks as well. Okay, I just love bugging you. Oh, and DJ says he loves the mountains too.
That's
you
right,
live
DJ.
in the mountains, don't you? I think DJ does. I'm jealous. Okay, anyway, we're here to actually talk, not to chit chat. What are we doing here? We are here for Ask a PT. I am Lindy Phyllis, founder of Family Friends in Duchenne, and I'm going to look in the camera now at you guys. And we are here just to answer some questions. Duchenne, gosh, it's such a tricky thing, as y'all all well know. But the physical therapy component is hugely misunderstood within the PT world. And so I've dragged Doug here today, kicking and screaming, to answer some questions for us. And DJ is here, the celebrity superstar of the DMD community. DJ Kimball is here with some of his own questions, which I'm excited about hearing the answers. They're really, really good questions. Let's see, Doug. All right, I'm gonna go off of memory. I don't have your bio in front of me.
Yes.
Doug Levine is a physical therapist. A physical therapist. You have been certified since the late 90s, working with children with Duchenne since the beginning, but specializing with them specifically in the last 10 years or so. You own Growing Places, your own physical therapy clinic in Austin, Texas. You have worked in daycare settings, schools, home, playgrounds, and anywhere else you can possibly find a victim. Is that right?
That is perfect. You nailed it. You nailed it.
Sweet.
And also,
okay.
and also currently, and for the last 7 years working with Cure Duchenne. So,
yes.
Yeah,
thank you. I know I missed something. Yeah, he's a great resource. Jennifer, what's Jennifer's last name?
Wallace.
Thank you. Yes, Jennifer Wallace and Doug, they do fantastic work at Cure Duchenne, and we'll drop the link there in the chat about where y'all can contact them, get some more information as well. So I think we're ready. DJ, you've been waiting patiently. We're grateful for that. DJ Kimball is going to be chatting with us with the eye gaze. Is that right, DJ? You wanted to do the audio, affectionately nicknamed Bob, but okay, cool. So DJ is going to be putting his question in the chat here, and I will read it for everybody. And then Doug will give us insight and wisdom far beyond his many, many years.
You always make me nervous with this, because just so everybody knows, I have no idea what the questions are ahead of time. I mean, they're always fantastic questions and they're about different topics, but she doesn't share them with me ahead of time. So it's just impromptu.
It totally is. Per Doug's request too. I'm like, seriously, a pop quiz in front of the world? You want to do it this way? Okay, DJ has actually said he has his question in audio. So this is so cool, guys. His eye gaze is going to convert to audio. So here we are. Let's hear it, DJ.
Yes, my question for Doug is, how does someone like myself, who is older, go about correcting severe tightness and contractures in their hands and fingers? My fingers have become so tight that it's very hard to get access for trimming my nails.
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's probably a question that doesn't have a fantastic answer for you. When something becomes a contracture, Really, it can't be stretched out at that point. It's either something like serial casting, which is, and that's hard to do on the fingers. That's more for like the ankles and occasionally for the knees. But serial casting is a series of casts where they stretch out the joint kind of slowly. But unfortunately, once the muscle has and the tendon has turned into a contracture, that's more of a permanent condition. So typically that's something that is alleviated, unfortunately, by surgery. That can't really be stretched out at that point. Sometimes you can make a little bit of progress by doing like a brace or a splint or the serial casting over, consistently, where you're doing something like 24 hours a day or 12 hours a day over a long period of time. But once things become so tight, or if they've been that way for many years, it's really kind of a surgical type thing that helps to fix that.
I have a question for you, Doug, while DJ, you work on your response. And hopefully I'm not stealing your next question, DJ. What can he do to prevent further contractures?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, so that's why, just kind of going back a little bit more, that's why that you hear so much in PT that stretching and mobility and positioning and bracing are so important, because we're trying to prevent those contractures, because once they occur, it's extremely difficult, or if not impossible, to undo. So at this point, if there are joints that he's trying to get from becoming worse, really it's a stretching and positioning or splinting type thing. So there are different braces. A lot of times OTs or PTs can custom make a brace. So even if there's like a severe contracture of a wrist, or a knee or an ankle, they can still make a brace to accommodate for that, to keep it from getting worse. But the thing is, with all of those things, stretching or bracing or splinting, they need to be done for at least 8 hours a day to kind of hold what's already there. So if we're just going to stretch for 5 minutes a day, or wear a splint for 30 minutes or an hour a day, it may help keep it from getting worse quicker, but it won't really stop it from where it is, unless we're wearing it for at least 8 hours a day. Linda, you're on mute.
I'm back. Thank you, Doug. He keeps me in line, both him and DJ. Okay, I'm going to read DJ's reply here, so everybody in Facebook land can hear it. DJ said, "I still have a little flexibility. It's just a little painful to do so. If I could keep from it getting worse, it would actually really help."
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I mean, stretching, even if there's not a contracture, but especially if there is a contracture, stretching is not always really comfortable. I mean, you think about it, if any of us without Duchenne have stretched, it's uncomfortable. So stretching should be a little bit uncomfortable. It shouldn't be really painful. There's a difference between the two. So DJ, if you have a little bit of flexibility and we're trying to keep that, then you want to try to do the stretching. It should be, like I said, a little bit uncomfortable. You don't want it to be really painful. And the reason it's uncomfortable is you're stretching that muscle out to a little bit past where it wants to go. So it's still important, even if you have a severe contracture, if you can stretch and you can get a little bit of mobility, that's still important.
Great, and DJ replied, "Right, I can understand that. I can too. However, Doug, I'm going to push you a little bit about contractures. So I have a friend who's actually gotten contractures in his jaws, and I'm hearing actually that's more and more common than I originally thought. And so he can't open his mouth quite as much, but he's been working with, and yes, this is related to DJ. He has been working with a little bit at a time, increasing that range of motion, like with jaw widener.
Like a spacer?
I think we have a Lindy frozen.
Okay, I didn't know if that was me or if that was her.
Okay, so it looks like DJ said that he also has that same issue. Is that with the jaw, DJ? Okay. Doug,
Okay,
can you
so-
talk a little bit about what happens with the jaw?
Yeah, well, let me kind of expand on that, because I think I know where Lindy was going. She wanted to she was saying she was pushing back on that a little bit, because it sounds like she has somebody that she knows that had tightness, and using a spacer and using, in a gradual way, widening or stretching out the jaw muscles. So that's what I was saying. I mean, that's essentially a form of serial casting. It's probably doing it slowly and incrementally. So that's why I was saying before, you can make some progress with serial casting. But typically, and this has been my experience, and this has been from talking to other therapists as well, there's only so much increased range of motion, whether it's the jaw or the ankle or the knee or the neck or anything like that. If you're doing a gradual type thing, there's usually so much progress that could be made. And typically, the longer that the contracture has been there, the harder it is to make a big change. So like let's use Lindy's example and DJ's example of the jaw. If they've had a contracture there for 6 months or a year, it might be a little bit, the tissues are still extensible enough that you might be able to make more of a change. But if the contracture has been there for 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, you might be able to make a little change, but you're going to run up against a wall. There's just so much that the tissue will expand. So DJ said that yours has been for a few years. Yeah. So I always feel like it's worth trying some sort of more aggressive stretching or serial casting. I always feel like surgery should be the last resort, because that's more of a permanent type thing. That's more of a serious type thing where you're putting somebody under. So certainly it's surgery is always an option, but we always like for that to be the last option. So if it's available, I don't do the serial casting anymore, because I go to people's homes and I work in the schools, and I don't have the ability to do the serial casting. But if I can refer them to somebody that does, I always try to do that first before we recommend any type of surgery.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, my video is not working right now. I have a wrap-up question for you, Doug. And yes, I know I'm the queen of one more question. I apologize. While DJ wraps up his thoughts, if the goal at this point really is just good hygiene on the fingernails, what would you recommend if we're not going to go surgery and we won't regain a ton of range of motion? What are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think if it becomes a hygiene thing, like DJ's talking about, or even a comfort thing, like let's say his fingernails are digging in there, sometimes just putting something soft in the hands, because if there's so much flexion, if we can get like a little towel or a soft, really soft ball or a sponge or something like that, just to open up the hands a little bit, you might be able to, I mean, because a lot of times when there's so much contraction that so much of a contracture that, it's not even really seeing the light of day, or air is not flowing in there. we run the risk of like yeast infections or different things like that due to decreased airflow. So even getting something in there to open it up a little bit, something that's breathable, like a washcloth or a sponge or something like that, and to keep the fingernails from digging into the hands, sometimes that's more comfortable.
Okay, awesome. I see DJ working with his eyes on his reply. And just to give you more things to multitask with, DJ, do you think any of those recommendations would work? From the Dougster. That's what I'm going to start calling you, the Dougster. Is that good?
That works, whatever you'd
You're
like.
okay with that? You're great. Thank you. All right. DJ replied. I'll go ahead and read that out loud. He said, oh, my chat went away. He said, great answers, Doug. I will definitely look into light stretching, and I believe just a little padding will definitely be helpful too.
Yeah, DJ, you don't want it to be anything that's too firm, because if your contractures so much that a splint or something like that is going to be uncomfortable as well, then you're just trading off the discomfort. So for something like, I think in your case, just something like a soft rubber or foam or something like that, just to open it up just a little bit might make it better.
Awesome. Well, Dougster, thank you so much for joining us today.
You
Very
bet.
grateful for your time and for coming back home from the mountains. We're happy to have you. And let's see, we're here on Mondays pretty often. And if you have any follow-up questions for me or Doug, please reach us at Family Friends in Duchenne or Doug@cureduchenne.org. Is that right?
That is correct.
That is correct. And we will plop all of our pertinent links in the chat there on Facebook for you guys. And DJ's last reply is, yep, I agree. Thank you, Doug. All right. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.